For the first time in history, NATO has fired on Russia. Polish jets tear Russian drones from the night sky. Wreckage lands on Polish soil, airport sealed, citizens panic. Warsaw calls it aggression. Washington calls it an act of war. This is no routine, it's a line crossed, and the world is watching. For the first time since Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, a NATO member has directly engaged Russian military assets over its own territory. In the early hours of September 10th, Polish forces shot down multiple Russian drones that violated Polish airspace during a massive attack on Ukraine.
Last night, the Polish airspace was violated by a huge number of Russian drones. Those drones that posed a direct threat were shot down. I am in constant communication with the Secretary General of NATO and our allies.
The Polish Armed Forces Operational Command immediately announced that some of the drones were neutralized and a defense procedure was underway.
As a result of attack by the Russian Federation on Ukrainian territory, there was an unprecedented violation of Polish airspace by drone-type objects. This is an act of aggression that posed a real threat to the safety of our citizens.
Defense Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz disclosed details about the operation, stressing the official response and ongoing coordination.
We asked for compliance with the announcements of the Polish army and police. Aircraft have used weaponry against hostile objects. We are in constant contact with NATO Command. The territorial defense forces have been activated for ground searches of downed drones.
The breach affected 3 key regions along Poland's eastern border: Podlaski, Mazowiecki, and Lublin. Polish authorities immediately placed ground-based air defense and radar reconnaissance systems on highest alert while scrambling both Polish and Allied aircraft. The dramatic escalation forced the closure of 4 major airports, including Warsaw's main Chopin Airport. The Rzeszów-Jasionka Airport, a critical hub for arms shipments to Ukraine, was among those temporarily shut down. Polish prosecutors said drone components were later discovered near a cemetery in the town of Chesniki in Zamość County. The drone incident drew immediate international attention. US Congressman Joe Wilson called it an act of war, posting on social media.
Russia is attacking NATO ally Poland with Iranian Shahed drones less than a week after President Trump hosted President Naraki at the White House. This is an act of war, and we are grateful to NATO allies for their swift response to war criminal Putin's continued unprovoked aggression against free and productive nations.
Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha provided crucial context, revealing that Russia had deployed approximately 415 drones and 40 missiles in the overnight assault.
Putin just keeps escalating, expanding his war and testing the West. The longer he faces no strength in response, the more aggressive he gets.
Following the escalation, the President of Poland called for a National Security Council meeting.
The news that we will have full information about what happened in Poland within 48 hours led me to the decision to convene the National Security Council within 48 hours. We must now have full information to be able to respond appropriately to the situation. This is an unprecedented moment in the history of the North Atlantic Alliance, but also in the history of this new Poland. This drone attack is truly exceptional.
The incident comes as tensions along Poland's borders reach new heights. A day earlier, Tusk announced the closure of Poland's border with Belarus due to what he termed very aggressive Russian-Belarusian military exercises.
First and foremost, those concerning the security of the Polish state. As you know, on Friday, very aggressive, from the perspective of military doctrine. Russian-Belarusian maneuvers are starting on the territory of Belarus, very close to the Polish border. This has various consequences, including responses such as maneuvers on our side by the Polish army and allied forces. But it is obvious that we describe such maneuvers as aggressive from the Russian-Belarusian side.
The Zapad 2025 exercises, involving up to 13,000 military personnel, have particular significance as they target the strategic Suwalki Gap, the narrow corridor connecting Poland to the Baltic states.
Their target is, among other things, the famous Suwalki Gap, meaning the target in terms of simulated actions. For now, simulated actions. We are also dealing with an increasing number of various provocations from Russia and Belarus, both in the country and, for example, the recent arrest of a Polish citizen and entourage on Belarusian territory. These bear the hallmarks of very aggressive provocations.
Adding to the regional instability, Polish authorities arrested a Belarusian spy on September 9th. The arrest, conducted in cooperation with intelligence services from the Czech Republic, Hungary, Romania, and Moldova, exposed a broader espionage network.
A Belarusian diplomat supporting the aggressive actions of Belarusian services against our country will also be expelled from Poland.
The big question now is simple. What happens next? When Poland shot down those Russian drones, it crossed a line that NATO has never crossed before. No alliance member has directly attacked Russian military equipment over its own territory since the Ukraine war began. Here's what makes this so dangerous. NATO has a rule called Article 5. It basically says if you attack one NATO country, you attack them all. But here's the thing. NATO has been very careful not to use this rule for smaller incidents like stray missiles or brief airspace violations. They usually just file complaints and increase security. But shooting down Russian drones is different. It's direct military action, and it changes the game completely. According to the European Council on Foreign Relations, Poland is now fighting two wars at once. There's the obvious one, helping Ukraine against Russia, but there's also a political war happening inside Poland itself, and it's making everything more complicated. Here are the facts that matter. Poland handles 80% of all military aid going to Ukraine. The country has spent 40 billion euros helping Ukraine since 2022. But Polish public opinion is shifting. Back in May 2022, 67% of Poles wanted Ukrainians to stay in Poland long term. Now that number has dropped to just 45%. Even more telling, 86% of Poles oppose sending their own soldiers to fight in Ukraine. This creates a real problem. Poland's President Karol Nawrocki and Prime Minister Donald Tusk can't agree on how to handle Ukrainian refugees. Nawrocki vetoed a bill that would have extended welfare benefits to Ukrainians. This kind of political fighting is happening while Russia is flying drones over Polish territory. So what could actually happen if this escalates? If NATO decides this drone incident was an act of war, we could see military action across Eastern Europe. Russia has already said it will target any Western troops sent to Ukraine. The country's nuclear doctrine allows for tactical nuclear weapons if Moscow feels its survival is threatened. But here's the reality check. Neither NATO nor Russia actually wants a full-scale war. Previous incidents with stray missiles and drone violations have been managed through diplomacy, not military action. Both sides have consistently stepped back from the brink when tensions peak. The real danger isn't necessarily immediate war. It's that Poland is becoming less effective as Europe's main defender against Russian expansion. If Poland's government remains divided on Ukraine policy while Russian pressure increases, it weakens the entire Western response at the worst possible time.